Hi, I'm Heidi Hewitt, AutoCAD Technical Marketing Manager at Autodesk, and I'm here with Rick Ellis, CAD consultant, trainer, and author. Rick, do you use the Parameters Manager when you're working with parameters in AutoCAD?
Absolutely. Basically what happens is when you create dimensional constraints, they're all named so that they are basically tagged within the AutoCAD drawing. And by default, it starts naming them, for instance, for lineal dimensional constraints, D1, D2, D3. And if you have a pretty simple drawing, then you can keep track of that and that's relatively easy. But if you imagine having a really complex drawing that has maybe hundreds of dimensional constraints, you don't want them to be named D75, D76.
That would be tough.
Because, I mean, I don't know about you, but I certainly wouldn't be able to keep track of all of that. So the Parameters Manager allows you to have a nice organized area that you can see all of your parameters or all of your dimensional constraints. And you can not only see them there organized nicely so you don't have to find them geographically throughout the drawing, but you also can rename them so that they have logical names rather than D1, D2, D3. They have names that mean something to you, like length or width or even more specific items than that. Now, to extend that, you can also create dependencies between those dimensional constraints. So if you have something very simple like a rectangle, that you want the length to be twice the width or the height of that rectangle, you can create equations where the length is twice the height. So if you change one of those pieces of geometry, either by stretching it with AutoCAD commands or by typing in different values into those dimensional constraints, then the other leg of the rectangle would update automatically.
So making one edit just kind of drives the geometry and changes it
exactly
as you expect it to with these relationships.
Exactly, and if you start to think about the different places that you can apply that, it really spans all industries and applies to almost anyone who uses AutoCAD, because if you think about your drawings, you have relationships like this all over the place.
Great, and now you're just being able to manage them in one place and drive them, yeah.
Exactly, so I could do a lot of editing within my drawing, all within the Parameters Manager, just by typing in different values, and you're going to see the geometry update real time on the screen.
Now, can you describe a little bit about user parameters and how those relate?
Well, it really comes into equations. So if you have a particular value that you want to have applied within an equation, you can essentially set up a user parameter or a variable that has some value to it by default that you could then continue to edit it, and that could be part of your equation. So it could be a multiplication factor, it could be dividing by something, or anything that you would use.
Maybe like wall thickness or hole diameter, something that you use over and over again.
Absolutely, and that could be applied to equations within multiple dimensional constraints. So I make one change in one location, and several of them update dynamically.
Great, and because you've applied your geometric constraints and your dimensional constraints, now all of this is working for you.
Exactly, and you can see where we're really getting closer and closer to modeling rather than drafting here, and that really becomes the theme of parametrics in general, is that we're talking about the model and not just a bunch of random lines, arcs, and circles.
That's a great point to make, and I think that you're right, that is the key here. All right, thanks. Rick.